At my mother's 60th birthday party, I gifted her a scrapbook full of memories. Tears filled my eyes as I watched her toss it aside without opening it. "You think this makes up for being a disappointment?" she whispered loud enough for the room to hear. My cousin stared at me like I was some disease. 3 months later, that same scrapbook ended up saving me from losing everything. My name's Rick. I'm 37 years old, and I live in Dayton, Ohio. I work as a data analyst, mostly behind the scenes. I don't like the spotlight. I've always been that guy people overlook at meetings or forget to include in the group photo. I've made peace with it. Or I thought I had. I didn't come from a warm family. My mom, Marcia, was cold. Not in the usual strict parent kind of way, but in that soul-freezing, make you question if you ever mattered kind of way. My dad left when I was 7. One day he was there, next day gone. I don't even remember his face anymore, just how loud they used to argue. After he left, she never spoke about him. But she made it clear that whatever he'd been, I was worse. "You cry too much. Just like him." "Weak," she used to say when I was a kid. I stopped crying by 10. Not because I got tougher, but because I didn't want to give her any more ammo. I don't have siblings. I grew up feeling like a guest in my own home. Holidays were awkward. Birthdays were worse. But I still kept trying to win her over. Even after I moved out at 25 and barely got a "congrats" when I landed my first full-time job, I still kept showing up. Still tried. Her 60th birthday was supposed to be something different. I thought maybe, just maybe, I could break through. My cousin Melissa was throwing her a huge party at this fancy banquet hall outside Dayton. It was catered, full bar, DJ, everything. She pulled out all the stops. Melissa was always the golden child in the family, got married at 24, 2 kids by 30, always dressed perfectly. My mom loved her. I knew I couldn't compete with that. I didn't even try. But I wanted to do something that meant something. I spent almost 2 months working on a scrapbook for my mom. Not some basic photo album. I made it from scratch. I included photos from her childhood that I scanned from old family albums. I wrote personal notes. I added letters I wrote to her as a kid, stuff I found in a box in her attic when I was helping her clean a year ago. I even included our Reba concert tickets from when I was 12. That was the only time I remember her smiling at me like she meant it. When the day of the party came, I was nervous. My hands were actually shaking as I walked in with the scrapbook wrapped in blue tissue paper. Everyone was already there. Melissa gave me that tight, fake smile she always used with me. My other cousins nodded politely. No one really asked how I'd been. Then came the moment where the family started giving their gifts. It wasn't supposed to be a gift-focused party, but people brought them anyway: jewelry, spa vouchers, a necklace from Melissa that got a big "oh my god" reaction. Then I stepped up. I handed her the scrapbook and said, "I made something for you. It's all the memories I could find." She took it. Looked at the cover for about a second. Then she laughed. Right into the mic. She said, "You think this makes up for being a disappointment?" She didn't whisper it. She didn't say it privately. She said it loud enough for everyone to hear. There were at least 50 people in that room. My stomach dropped. People laughed nervously, like they didn't know how to react. A few looked away. But most of them stared at me, especially my cousins. Like I was some sad stray dog that wandered in. She didn't even open the scrapbook. Just tossed it onto the gift table behind her like it was nothing. I stood there like a fool. My face was hot. I couldn't even move at first. I left before dessert. Drove home in silence. No music, no radio. Just the sound of my thoughts screaming. I didn't cry until I got home. And even then, I felt stupid for crying. Like she was right to say what she said. Like I deserved it. The scrapbook was still in my car the next day. She hadn't even asked me to leave it behind. I thought about throwing it out. I almost did. But something told me to keep it. 3 months later, everything fell apart. It started with an email from HR. Someone had sent an anonymous tip accusing me of falsifying data on 2 major client accounts. They said I'd manipulated the numbers on quarterly projections and submitted false data under my credentials. It was serious. They said the edits came from my user ID. My password. My work laptop. At 2:17 a.m. on a Sunday. I told them I didn't do it. I swore I didn't. But the evidence looked bad. The login came from my home IP address. My device. Even the files had metadata showing they were changed under my name. I was suspended. No pay. I had 30 days to clear my name or face termination and legal action. I tore through my files. My emails. My project logs. Nothing looked out of place until I remembered something. The night of the party. The night I came home drunk and passed out. I had brought my laptop with me to show my cousin Darren something at the party. I'd left it in the back seat of my car. Right next to the scrapbook. I sprinted to my car. Dug through the back seat. The scrapbook was still there, under an old hoodie. When I opened it, something fluttered out. A small folded piece of paper. It was a receipt. From a gas station in Centerville. Dated the night of the party. Time, 2:17 a.m. The same time the edits were made to those files. It was signed. With a card. Darren's card. That was the moment everything clicked. He had taken my laptop out of my car. Probably while I was inside getting another drink or saying goodbye. He'd used it to make the changes. Then he returned it before I even noticed. But why? That's when I went to Aunt Gail. She's Darren's mom. And when she drinks, she talks. I visited her with a 6-pack and an "I miss you" smile. Took about an hour before she was chatting about the party. "That boy," she said. "You're Darren. He said he was just trying to help your mom. She told him you'd always been a burden." I froze. "Help her how?" She laughed, like it was no big deal. "Said you were dragging the family name down. Told him to make sure people finally saw you for what you were." That's when I knew. It wasn't just Darren. My mother set me up. But I wasn't going down without a fight. After I left Aunt Gail's place, I sat in my car for over an hour, just staring out the window. My jaw was clenched so tight it hurt. I wasn't even shocked. That was the worst part. A part of me always knew she didn't care about me, not really. But to find out she actually helped Darren sabotage my life? That cut deeper than anything she ever said to my face. I knew I couldn't go straight to HR with the receipt. It wasn't enough. It proved Darren was out at 2:17 a.m. near where my laptop was, but it didn't prove what he did with it. I needed more. I remembered something else. My laptop has a camera. It's always been buggy, but sometimes it randomly records short clips when it detects movement. I had turned that feature on years ago when my old roommate kept snooping. I hadn't thought about it in forever. When I got home, I plugged in the laptop and dug deep into the system logs. Took hours. But eventually, I found a strange folder buried under system cache. Inside were 4 video clips. All silent. All grainy. But one of them showed exactly what I needed. It was a video from the night of the party, timestamped 2:18 a.m. It was short, only 20 seconds long. But it was clear. Darren. Sitting on my couch. typing on my laptop. The screen glowed bright, and even though the image wasn't perfect, you could see enough. He was logged into my work portal. The bastard broke into my car, took my laptop, and used it to frame me all while I was passed out upstairs. I stared at the video for a long time. My hands were shaking. I saved it to 3 flash drives and uploaded it to the cloud. Then I made copies of everything: emails, the receipt, the footage. Next, I did something I never thought I'd do. I went back to my mother's house. She opened the door in her usual way, half smile, like she was doing me a favor just by acknowledging me. "Well, this is unexpected," she said. I didn't sit. I didn't even take off my jacket. "Why did you do it?" I asked. My voice cracked a little, but I didn't care. "Why would you help Darren ruin me?" She raised an eyebrow. Didn't flinch. "I don't know what you're talking about." I took the scrapbook out of my bag. Placed it on her table. Then I dropped the receipt on top. Then the flash drive. "You told him I was dragging the family down," I said. "You told him to make people see me for what I am. You helped set this up." She didn't look at the items. Just crossed her arms. "You were always a problem, Rick," she said. "Always so fragile." It was embarrassing. I felt my stomach twist. "All I ever did was try to make you proud." She let out a laugh. "You? Proud? You're a grown man who cries over photo albums and works in a cubicle. You want to be proud? Go build something. Go make real money. Stop acting like a victim." I didn't even respond. I just stared at her. She really believed every word. That's when I realized there was no changing her. No winning her over. She'd already made her mind up about me years ago. And she wasn't about to change. So I left. I went straight to HR the next morning. Showed them everything: the receipt, the videos, the metadata logs. It took a week of back and forth, but eventually they opened a formal investigation. They even brought in an external forensics team. While that was going on, I made another move. I emailed Darren. All I said was, "You messed with the wrong one. You've got 48 hours to make this right before I go public." He didn't respond. But Melissa did. She called me that night. "Rick, what the hell is going on?" Her voice was tight, fake sweet like always. "Ask your brother," I said. "He's freaking out. He said you're threatening him." "I'm not threatening. I'm giving him a chance." She paused. "You really want to tear this family apart?" That hit me. Because it showed how little they thought of me. Like I was the wrecking ball, not the one who got crushed. I hung up. 2 days later, HR called. Their audit confirmed that Darren had used my credentials and made the changes. They traced everything. I was cleared. I got reinstated. With back pay. And a formal apology. But that wasn't enough. Because Darren still had a job. My mother still had her friends. And no one else knew the truth. So I decided to fix that. I started slow. Quiet. I didn't want revenge that made me look crazy. I wanted consequences. I wanted people to see what they had ignored for years. I wanted them to feel it. First, I posted the story on Facebook. Just the facts. No dramatic language. Just what happened, backed with screenshots and proof. I uploaded a clip of Darren at my laptop, the timestamp visible. I shared the gas station receipt with his signature. I didn't mention my mom at first. Just Darren. The post sat at the top of my feed for 48 hours. It spread fast. Old classmates. Co-workers. Family friends. Everyone started commenting. Some were shocked. Some were mad. But the real damage came from Melissa's friends' moms in PTA groups and local Facebook communities. The kind that don't forget. The kind that talk. Then I got a call. From Darren. He sounded out of breath. Nervous. "Rick, man, listen, I didn't mean for it to get that far. It was just a prank. A stupid thing. You broke into my car. Used my laptop. You cost me my job." "That's not a prank," I said flatly. He begged me to take the post down. Said it was hurting his business. He'd started some small IT consulting company last year and was just getting traction. I guess that traction was disappearing fast. I told him I'd think about it. Then I made my next move. I added an update to the post. This time, I included a screenshot of the messages between Darren and my mother. Messages I hadn't shown anyone yet. I'd found them while digging through an old group chat on my mom's Facebook, one that she didn't realize was still shared with me. Darren had messaged her the night after the party. "Darren, done. Should be enough to get him fired. Marcia, you did the right thing. He'll never learn otherwise." There it was. Her words. Her approval. Clear as day. When I posted those, all hell broke loose. This time, the attention wasn't on Darren, it was on her. The comments turned darker. People who'd known her for years started asking questions. Family members reached out to me directly. One of my uncles, her brother, James, called me. I hadn't spoken to him in years. "I knew she could be cold, Rick," he said. "But this? She let him ruin your life. That's unforgivable." Even Aunt Gail, Darren's mom, called and said she had no idea what he'd done. I knew that was a lie, but I let her pretend. She cried, blamed it all on how Marcia raised him. I didn't take the post down. Not yet. Because I wasn't done. Then something happened I didn't expect. Candace, my boss, called me into her office. She sat me down, handed me a folder, and said, "You're not the only one she's manipulated." Inside the folder were HR complaints from years ago. Old ones. From interns, junior staff, people who'd been transferred or let go quietly. Most were against my mom. I blinked. "I don't understand. My mom doesn't work here." Candace looked at me like I was stupid. "She used to," she said. "Marcia was a consultant here. 10 years ago. Strategic planning. She was fired after a dispute." I felt like the room tilted. I'd had no idea. But then it made sense. Why Candace had always looked at me funny when I first got hired. Why she hesitated when she took me on full-time. She'd known my mom. And not in a good way. "She told us you were nothing like her," Candace said. "Turns out she was right. You're worse to her." I raised an eyebrow. "She said that?" I asked. Candace nodded. "At a company dinner. Told me you were soft. Said she only kept you around because she felt guilty." That's when something inside me snapped. She'd poisoned people against me years before I even showed up. And I'd spent all this time trying to earn her love. I drove home that day with one thought in my head: I was done playing defense. Everything I'd ever done to earn her love had been a waste. Every good grade, every job update, every dumb little attempt to impress her, none of it had mattered. She never wanted a son. She wanted something she could control. And when I stopped being that, she tried to destroy me. So I burned the bridge. I sent one final email. Not to Darren. Not to Melissa. I sent it to every family member, friend, and old church contact she still had in her circle. A simple PDF. It included the Facebook messages, the gas station receipt, the video clip of Darren at my laptop, a personal letter from me detailing what she'd done, going all the way back to childhood, how she treated me, spoke about me, and finally set me up to fail. At the end, I added one last sentence: I loved her until it nearly killed me. She made her choice. Now you can all make yours. Then I blocked her number. Blocked Darren. Blocked half my extended family. The rest I left open just so they could watch what came next. Because I wasn't finished. I hired a lawyer. I knew I couldn't get much out of Darren, but I could make sure he felt it. We built a civil case for defamation, reputational damage, and unauthorized access to personal property. The evidence was strong. He settled out of court 2 months later, $42,000. Not a fortune, but enough to sting. He had to sell off equipment from his little IT business to pay it. His name? Ruined. His company? Dead in the water. And my mother? She called me once. Blocked number. I knew it was her the second I heard the breathing. She didn't apologize. She didn't ask for forgiveness. All she said was, "You really think any of this changes who you are?" I hung up. A week later, she was forced out of her book club. Her closest friends cut her off. Someone in her retirement planning circle shared the email. Her reputation as a classy, sharp woman was gone. I heard from Uncle James that she started seeing a therapist. But I also heard she still says I ruined her life. Maybe I did. I don't care. And me? I moved to Cincinnati. Started fresh. Took a new job in a smaller firm. I don't talk about my family. I don't try to impress anyone anymore. I've stopped explaining myself. Sometimes I still open the scrapbook. It sits on a shelf near my bed now. It reminds me of what I lost. But it also reminds me of what I survived. And no matter what she said, no matter how she tried to shape me into something broken, I didn't break. Not forever.